Welcome, everyone, to a new episode of the Baron Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about some of the matches that occurred in the Bundesliga and the Premier League in the most recent match day for both leagues. Specifically, some of the things that occurred in the Arsenal versus Manchester City game, seeing Manchester City win 3-0, as well as Dortmund and RB Leipzig putting in some poor performances for their latest matches, as well as Sheffield United being robbed of a goal for their latest match against Aston Villa. All right, let's go right away into the Sheffield United and Aston Villa game. A game that was both important for both sides, but it ultimately led to a 0-0 scoreline, leading to a point for both teams. Aston Villa, who are in a relegation battle right now, and Sheffield United looking to potentially take Europa League qualification or Champions League. Now, Sheffield United was supposed to be strong favorites because they've been doing amazingly this entire season. And what it led to was Sheffield United was given a free kick, and the free kick taker finished the free kick. And as it was going in, the goalkeeper he was caught off guard. He catches the ball, but then when he's falling down with the ball, he gets nudged backwards by his teammate into the goal. And Sheffield players are like, "Oh, is that a goal? Is that a goal?" And then Aston Villa players aren't saying anything. And what it turns out is the ref says that just keep going the match, the goal at his watch, where it can tell him if it's a goal or not, because of goal line technology. It said that there was no goal at all. And when you look at the video, and I strongly recommend that you guys look at it if you haven't already, you can see the goalkeeper into the goal, way past the goal line, and nothing happened. It turns out that the goal line technology was obstructed, and it was conflicting with it, so it didn't give the goal for Sheffield United, and it did really. I think it's a real bad look for VAR and goal line or whatever, just the all-night technology used in the Premier League. I still support it. I still think it's a good feature, but I think it's not a good look considering it's the first match after a long break. And definitely I will be very, 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 very disappointed if Sheffield United is cheated out of a Europa League game, or a Europa League qualification, or a Champions League qualification because of potentially 3 points or 2 points, because they should have been the winners because of that goal. And if the Premier League is going to do something about it, I hope they do something about it. Then it definitely they need to fix that. And another match that came later in the day with the first couple of matches for the Premier League restart was Manchester City versus Arsenal. And now this game was supposed to be competitive with Mikel Arteta, the new Arsenal head coach who was appointed in the end of December last year. He was expected, to know what the team that he was an assistant manager for, Manchester City, under Pep Guardiola, how he would do. And since he knows the systems in and out. And I'm going to be honest, in the first 20-30 minutes and only a little bit was Manchester City dominating, and Arsenal was defending well. They were doing a pretty solid job of maintaining what they were doing in the midfield and controlling possession and preventing Manchester City from getting the ball rolling. But then it looked very bad just for Arsenal specifically, because they got some bad injuries early on. Granit Xhaka was first few minutes in, and he's already out because of an ankle injury. And then Mari, who is a central defender, was also subbed off for David Luiz. And David Luiz, when he came on, it was very, very poor. It was extremely poor what his performances are. He is not a good center back. He really is not a good center back at all. I mean, he comes he gets subbed on. Okay, he's one of the more senior players. He should be experienced and well qualified for a good big game against Manchester City. And as soon as he gets on, it's only 10 minutes or something, and he already he messes up blocking the ball and defending the attackers from Manchester City, and he lets and he contributes to Raheem Sterling getting a goal in. And then in the second half, right after, he doesn't reset, and he's like, okay, I need to reset and make sure that I'm good, and since he's an experienced player. And then at the start of the second half, he brings down Riyad Mahrez, and then he gets a red card for that. It is leading Arsenal to be only a 10-man squad for the rest of the game, and he concedes a penalty where Kevin De Bruyne raises the scoreline to 2-0. And Arsenal, I mean, there's news that Mikel Arteta said that he wants to bring David Luiz, or try to sign David Luiz for a new contract. And I don't understand why you would want that. David Luiz is not your future, especially for Arsenal, who need to rebuild and go back to where they were in many years before, where they had strong squads with strong defenders. And now this brings up another point about Arsenal. Bernd Leno, the German goalkeeper for Arsenal, he's 28. And he's doing very well, I think. Very well for the team that Arsenal has defensively. I mean, there was a stats. I was reading a Premier League article where it said that in 28 Premier League matches, the German has played behind 17 different defensive combinations. I mean, the fact that he's playing consistently enough to do fairly well with the defensive backline that he has, and which is always changing, meaning that the defensive backline isn't fully in sync with one another because they're playing different matches with different combinations. That's incredible what he's doing, where he's putting in still good performances, solid performances, and he's still doing well. Also, I mean, it's also look at the defensive combination is clear when you look at what type of players he plays with. 4 different left backs, 4 different right backs, and 6 different center backs. Arsenal needs some new defenders. If they are going to look serious for the next season, they need to get rid of David Luiz. His contract's ending this season anyway. Then he needs to go out. I heard he's going to go to Benfica or something, but whatever. He needs to be replaced with someone far better. Now the problem with that is, how are you going to find a far better defender if you're Arsenal right now? It's not the most attractive spot or attractive team to be a part of, and I think that's definitely, they might even have to bring in somebody new, somebody very new. They have some strong forwards, strong midfielders, young midfielders, who could take up the mantle. But Bernd Leno, he is a good start for an Arsenal defense, a good start for a potential future Arsenal defense. He is consistent, fairly consistent, and he's getting better when it comes to last season. And some of the stats, such as he's more authoritative from crosses, he punches the ball out, and he goes outside of his box. And he's getting better from last season, and I think he could still be getting way better and improving Arsenal defensively. But you need some more defenders. I mean, Bernd Leno is he's doing well as best as he can, but he needs a better defensive line, and then Arsenal can do better. Also, Arsenal just needs to spend cash. They really do. And try to attract the best player they can, specifically for the defensive back line. And to our next topic, of course, will be Borussia Dortmund and RB Leipzig. The poor performances they put in, very poor. And Borussia Dortmund lost to Mainz 2-0. RB Leipzig has a two-goal early lead, and they give it away with Fortuna Dusseldorf clawing back in with another 2 goals to give them a point. And I think it's really clear why they just put in poor performances. Dortmund, they lost because they're demotivated. I mean, you don't need to play. You don't really care. I mean, why would you care? Yeah, Bayern has won the league officially, and there's only 1-2 matches left. You're not playing for anything. You've secured Champions League qualification. There's nothing else you need to do. The same goes for RB Leipzig. They've secured Champions League qualification. I mean, these players are primarily demotivated, I think. And I really do think that it's disappointing. And I think if both teams want to win the league, right, they need players who are still fully giving their 100% mentally understanding that this is a match. I play to win the game, and I make sure that my team gets those 3 points, and regardless of what's going on around, like such as Bayern winning the title, I will still try to win for my team. And I think it's really just a lack of motivation at this point. And there is a crucial match coming up this weekend, Bundesliga. I think it's match day 33 or 34. I don't remember exactly, but it's going to be RB Leipzig versus Borussia Dortmund. Now, this game I think will be very, very important. Not in terms of table position, second, third, or fourth, but more of mentality, team mentality. If Dortmund loses to Leipzig, I feel personally that Leipzig has a stronger mentality. And if Leipzig loses to Dortmund, then Dortmund has a stronger mentality. Strong mentality as in the players in that squad next season will try to win the game. They will try to win the league, and they will be stronger more mentally. Because Borussia Dortmund and RB Leipzig they messed up big time in when they had a lead at the top of the table. Dortmund not as much because they started off with a poor start. They had a lead, and they gave it away to ultimately Bayern. And both teams need to be looking and ensuring that their players are fully focused on what they need to do and not get complacent or unmotivated by what's going on around them and still be focused and driven for their goals. And I do think the upcoming match with those two teams will be important to see who is more mentally strong or more committed to winning and preparing themselves for the next season and just getting those matches in and getting better as a team as a whole. All right, coming this Friday for the Premier League will be 2 matches with Norwich City versus Southampton. A crucial game for both sides. Norwich is most likely going to be relegated, and not much they can do there. But Southampton will be trying to stay away from that relegation zone and just keep pushing up and move up the table. Not that important, but still pretty important for both sides to just get right in the table. And Norwich City try to hold any hope. But I think a key player to look out for is Todd Cantwell, who is, of course, the Norwich City local star. And he's gonna potentially move maybe for a bigger team. He does well. He's a good player and could potentially move to a bigger club with the next season and not stay with Norwich City in the championship. Another crucial game that's way more important is Manchester United versus Tottenham Hotspurs. Now this game will be interesting with Jose Mourinho going up against his former team. He already did it like a couple months ago against Manchester United, but in which he lost, him and Spurs lost. But I think it is important. Spurs should be the team that benefits the most out of this break. They had so many injured players. They lacked any depth for their squad because they were all tired and exhausted from the matches that they were playing in the Champions League, in the FA Cup, in the Premier League, and they didn't have that many players to rotate, with them relying on a lot of young players like Tanganga. And I do think that, of course, Spurs should benefit and it was shown with Harry Kane coming back after his surgery and the major injury that he received, as well as Heung, Son, and Sissoko. And I remember when Son got an injury, Mourinho was looking very down. He was very upset, of course, that he lost one of his most important players, and he already had lost Harry Kane before that. And now, I mean, it's going to be extremely hard for. He said that for Hotspurs, for Spurs to keep going into the Premier League and doing well. But the coronavirus came around, and of course the Premier League was postponed. And I think it should do well for Spurs in ensuring that they do well for the rest of the Premier League and try to get a Europa League qualification at least with the team that they have. But I still doubt that they will be able to get it. But if Spurs are able to, I think this break had helped them a large amount with those players getting rested. Sissoko is another player who also will be coming back. Dele Alli, who was also pretty exhausted. He even complained about how he's tired from all the matches that he's playing and all the running that he has to do in all those matches. but he will be missing a game because the FA banned him for one match due to a racially insensitive joke he made. But with all those key players for Spurs coming back, hopefully more fit for them, then the Spurs should do better than they were earlier in the season. But then again, Spurs is a side that has a lot of older players who aren't looking fully committed, such as Jan Vertonghen, who may look to leave, most likely, after this season. And Mourinho is looking to extend Vertonghen's stay to the end of the season because his contract ends probably in the middle of the season. So they're trying to extend it fully to the end of the season. But still, I think that Spurs should look better for this game ahead, and because of the players that they have back. But it really does depend on how their performances are and how committed the Spurs players are. Another team on the other side is Manchester United, who look very good. Before the break, they were looking very strong. They beat Manchester City in the Manchester Derby, and they looked very, very good with their new signing from the January transfer window, Bruno Fernandes, who is very good. I can't stress it enough. But Paul Pogba will also be coming back, and him and Bruno Fernandes could play a major and key role in the midfield and ensure that they can get a result out of Spurs. If Paul Pogba and Bruno Fernandes perform to their best, I think it will be a clear and obvious victory for Manchester United. Because Paul Pogba's talent and Bruno Fernandes' talent can be very, very lethal combination. We haven't really seen it at all, really, or to a full effect. And if we see it in this game, then it will look very, very promising for Manchester United, especially if they can get other key players in the summer transfer window. If Paul Pogba is at his best, and Bruno Fernandes, as well as other key signings such as Kai Havertz or Jadon Sancho, who are coming in, if they come in, then Manchester United are definitely on the path back to winning a Premier League title. But I don't expect, looking back more onto this, I don't expect both teams to do amazing coming back. I don't think you should expect any of the teams to do amazing coming back. I mean, look at the Arsenal versus Manchester City game. I think definitely some of these players will look very struggling for fitness, some of them. I mean, look at Granit Xhaka and Mari. They got injured. Definitely room for a lot of injuries for many of these players. And I think they need to be careful, but also just understand that they need to, get back into the groove. But it will be interesting. I think it will be a good game and definitely a need to watch for the Premier League. All right, another topic we got for you is, of course, the Champions League will be returning in Lisbon, where Lisbon will play host for the Champions League from August 12th to August 23rd for the quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals. It's yet to be decided if the knockout rounds will be played in Lisbon or at the home stadiums or the stadiums for those specific teams. We still got a couple of matches left, such as Barcelona and Napoli, Bayern Munich and Chelsea, as well as some other games. Chelsea will most likely be out because of the 3-0 down with 3-0 away goals in Bayern's favor. But it will look interesting to see the Champions League because there won't be home legs or first legs and second legs for the quarterfinals and the semifinals for in the Champions League. It's just one game, just like the World Cup, and it will definitely be fun to see the Champions League again. But both leagues, the Premier League and the Bundesliga, will end before the Champions League starts. And I do think it's interesting because if Bayern Munich, the Bundesliga ends the earliest because they started before any other league. And I think that Bayern could potentially negatively be affected by that. They could also be positively with the rest that's given, but they also could latch match sharpness and with the Premier League playing more recent games than the Bundesliga teams, such as specifically Bayern. And I think my favorites are Bayern or Manchester City for winning the league. For winning the Champions League. And I do think it's possible for those teams. But I'm rooting I'm rooting for Napoli. I really am. I hope that Napoli wins against Barcelona and or win that win that Champions League title. It's very unlikely, but I hope so. Well, that concludes for this episode of the Football Baron Podcast. I hope you all enjoyed, and thank you all for listening. If you're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Stitcher, or Spotify, please make sure to follow or subscribe and rate this podcast so we can be viewed by more people. And if you are on YouTube, or if you are not on YouTube, go to the Football Baron on YouTube and subscribe to us and watch some of our videos. We have them in clips format so you can see smaller segments without watching the entire podcast. And again, I want to thank you all. Also, go to our website, footballbaron.com. And again, thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a good day and a good weekend. If you're supporting any teams, I wish you all the luck. And anyways, I will see you in the next episode of the podcast, and appreciate it. Goodbye.